Have you ever trusted someone who broke your heart? Discover the shocking story of a mother betrayed by those she loved most, and how she found the strength to start over.
Marina always believed that true love was eternal, and that life, despite its hardships, would reward those who loved sincerely. She married young to Daniel, a generous and devoted man who shared her dreams and hopes. Together, they built a family and had 2 children, Ethan and Olivia. Daniel was everything Marina ever wanted, and life seemed to follow the perfect script she had imagined. But happiness didn't last. Daniel, who had always been healthy, suffered a sudden heart attack. Marina found herself alone at 35, with 2 young children to raise and a household to sustain. At that time, her world seemed to collapse, but instead of giving in to despair, Marina found strength in the eyes of her children. She knew she needed to be strong, not just for herself, but for them. To make ends meet and provide for her children, Marina had to reinvent herself. She worked mornings as a receptionist at a small office and spent her afternoons taking sewing jobs at home, saving every penny so that Ethan and Olivia could have everything they needed. The nights were lonely, and many times she found herself staring out the window, wondering how life might have been if Daniel were still there, standing by her side. Years went by, and Marina eventually found some stability. She watched her children grow, graduate, and become independent adults. Ethan went to engineering school and soon started working in another city, visiting only during holidays and special occasions. Olivia, on the other hand, decided to stay close to her mother, studying business and helping Marina manage the small tailoring business she had built over the years. With her children settled and her financial situation more secure, Marina began to feel a void she had ignored for years. For the first time in a long while, she was alone. The house, once filled with laughter and activity, felt large and silent. She spent her weekends on the porch, watching the street and wondering if there was still room for love in her life. Marina wondered if, after so many years of struggle, she could still find a way to start over. She saw young couples holding hands, walking down the street, and imagined if she would ever have the courage to allow herself to feel that way again. Then Marina met Alex. He was the driver responsible for picking up and delivering merchandise from Marina's small business to stores around town. From the first moment, Marina felt something different. Alex was charming, with an easy smile and a quick joke. Despite being younger than her, the way he looked at her made Marina feel alive and desirable again, feelings she hadn't experienced in a long time. At first, Marina resisted. She was afraid of opening up her heart again, afraid of getting hurt. And then there was the age difference. At 48, she felt insecure about what the future might hold. But Alex was persistent. Every time he came by the shop, he brought her a simple gift. A flower picked along the way, a small dessert wrapped with care, and spent a few minutes chatting with Marina. Little by little, she opened up to him. She learned that Alex also had a difficult past. He had been raised by his grandmother after being abandoned by his parents as a child. Maybe that was why he appreciated what he called the small joys of life so much. Over time, Marina stopped resisting and accepted an invitation for dinner. It was a simple evening at a modest restaurant, but it ignited a flame in her that had long been extinguished. Alex made her laugh, something she hadn't done often in years. For the first time in a long while, Marina allowed herself to dream again. They started going out more often, and Marina found herself increasingly charmed by Alex's kindness and warmth. He not only treated her with respect and tenderness, but also showed genuine interest in getting to know Ethan and Olivia, building bonds that made her believe there was indeed a future for them. After months of dating, Alex proposed. Her children were cautious at first. Ethan, even though he lived far away, was always protective of his mother. Olivia, while more accepting, still expressed concerns about the age gap and the fast pace of the relationship. Marina, however, assured them she was happy and that Alex was someone she could trust. She felt that, after so many years of hardship and loneliness, she deserved some happiness. Marina and Alex married in a small ceremony in their backyard, surrounded by a few close friends and family. It was a fresh start, and Marina was ready to embrace this new chapter of her life. She believed, with all her heart, that after so many sacrifices and pain, she was finally being rewarded. Life with Alex felt perfect, like a dream she never thought she'd have the courage to live again. But, as with all dreams, shadows began to form on the horizon. Little details that Marina initially ignored started to stand out. Alex's phone ringing late at night, the sudden outings he claimed were work obligations, and most of all, the growing closeness between him and Olivia. At first, Marina watched them talk and laugh, assuming it was just friendship. After all, Alex was friendly with everyone, but deep down, something in her heart began to feel uneasy. Sometimes, while watching Alex and Olivia share smiles, Marina felt an inexplicable sense of discomfort. She wondered if she was just being paranoid, if her fear of losing someone important again was making her see problems where none existed. But as the nights grew longer and she lay awake in bed next to a husband who felt increasingly distant, she wondered if the love she fought so hard to find was about to crumble. Marina had no idea that this new chapter of her life, which began with so much hope and happiness, would become the most challenging and painful journey she had ever faced. The first few months of marriage were filled with small, happy moments. Marina felt that she was finally building a peaceful life alongside someone willing to share everything with her. The routine between them felt natural, and Alex seemed dedicated and attentive, always making sure she felt loved and cherished. Marina believed that, at last, she had found the peace she had long sought. But gradually, Marina began noticing subtle changes in Alex's behavior. T, who used to always invite her out and make plans together, started claiming he had frequent late-night work meetings. When she asked about them, Alex explained that his company was expanding and clients demanded more of his time. Marina tried to be understanding. After all, she knew what it was like to sacrifice to keep a business running. She wanted to trust her husband, but something in his tone, in his posture, seemed different. One night, as she waited for Alex to return from one of these meetings, Marina noticed her phone vibrating repeatedly. It was Olivia, sending a series of messages. Marina smiled, seeing that her daughter was worried about the work and the orders that needed to be delivered from the tailoring business the next morning. She replied quickly and continued waiting for Alex. However, an unsettling thought made her check the phone again. The messages from Olivia seemed unusual, that almost as if she was trying to fill the silence. Marina wondered if her daughter was also feeling lonely. A few weeks later, while preparing dinner, Olivia showed up at Marina's house unexpectedly. Olivia had always been close to her mother, but ever since Marina married Alex, her visits had become less frequent. That night, Olivia seemed restless, pacing the room and avoiding eye contact with her mother. When Marina asked what was going on, Olivia forced a smile, blaming it on the stress from work. But something felt off. During dinner, Marina noticed that Olivia and Alex exchanged knowing glances and made inside jokes she didn't understand. These were small remarks and private laughter that she wasn't part of, and no matter how much she tried to join the conversation, she felt out of place. Alex, who once always made an effort to include her, now seemed more focused on talking to Olivia. Marina tried to convince herself that this was just a demonstration of the bond Alex had formed with her daughter, but the discomfort inside her grew with every smile she saw. Later that night, after Olivia left, Marina asked Alex if everything was okay between them. He smiled, kissed her forehead, and assured her that everything was perfect, telling her there was nothing to worry about. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. The heaviness in her chest persisted, an anxiety that kept her awake at night. Sometimes, as he slept beside her, Marina would watch Alex's face, searching for clues to something she still couldn't understand. One afternoon, Marina decided to surprise Alex. She prepared his favorite dish and set the table with flowers. When she called to ask what time he'd be home, Alex answered quickly, saying he would have to work late again. Marina tried to hide her disappointment, but accepted his explanation. She then decided to call Olivia and invite her to dinner. However, Olivia didn't pick up. Marina found it odd, as Olivia always returned her calls quickly. Hours later, Marina decided to drive to the office where Alex claimed he'd be working. She wanted to surprise him, show that she cared. When she arrived, she found the building dark, the parking lot empty. Her heart tightened, but she tried to stay calm. Perhaps Alex had gone out to meet clients. Determined not to let negative thoughts take over, Marina returned home. A few days later, while at work in the tailoring shop, Marina realized she had left a crucial fabric at home. Since her house was close by, she asked one of her employees to cover for her and rushed back to retrieve the material. When she arrived, she noticed the door was slightly ajar, which struck her as odd, since she was sure she had locked it when she left. She entered cautiously, a strange tension hanging in the air. Walking down the hallway, she heard muffled laughter coming from Olivia's room at the back of the house. As she got closer, she recognized Alex's voice. Her heart raced. For a moment she stopped, her legs shaking. Holding her breath, she tried to listen more closely. The laughter continued, and then she heard Olivia's voice joining in. They were speaking softly, but the intimacy in their voices was undeniable. Marina felt a pang of fear, but she tried to rationalize. Maybe they were just discussing work for the tailoring business. After all, Olivia often helped Alex with the orders. Taking a deep breath, Marina approached the door. She knew she should knock, announce her presence, but something held her back. She stood there, frozen, listening to their voices and feeling as if her world was on the brink of collapse. When she finally managed to knock, the voices inside the room went silent. Olivia appeared, slightly breathless and visibly flustered. Alex followed shortly, forcing a smile. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Olivia asked, her tone surprised but unconvincing. Alex, trying to sound casual, moved forward to embrace Marina, but she pulled back, saying she had only come to pick up the fabric. The atmosphere grew tense, and Marina felt every sense on high alert. Alex tried to explain his presence, claiming he was helping Olivia with a computer problem, but his explanation felt artificial. Marina pretended to accept it, but deep down, she felt something crumbling. Later, alone in her home, Marina reflected on everything that had happened. Was she imagining things? Was her fear of losing Alex making her see signs where there were none? But the more she thought about it, the more the pieces didn't fit. Marina realized that perhaps she was living a lie. The days following the incident at Olivia's house were filled with unease for Marina. No matter how hard she tried to convince herself it was just paranoia, the feeling that something was wrong lingered. The smile Alex once gave her, which used to feel reassuring, now seemed to hide secrets. Olivia's visits, which once brought her joy, now carried a discomfort she could not ignore. One morning, while having her coffee alone in the kitchen, Marina decided it was time to act. She could no longer live with this doubt gnawing at her peace. She decided that, instead of confronting the two of them directly, she would observe and investigate on her own. If she was wrong, she would know that her suspicions were just a product of her insecurities. But if she was right, she needed to be prepared to face the truth. Marina began paying closer attention to the details. When Alex claimed he had work meetings, she noted the times and compared them with the instances when he went out with Olivia. She discreetly recorded when they were alone in the house and even monitored the messages Olivia sent, which now seemed to have a different tone from what she remembered. It was as if something subtle, almost imperceptible, had changed in every interaction between them. One afternoon, while Alex was in the shower, Marina noticed his phone sitting on the living room table. The device buzzed, and moved by the curiosity that was consuming her, she went closer. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. It was a short message, but it made Marina's heart race. "Tomorrow at the usual spot?" Marina froze. What spot? She thought, her hands trembling. She knew she had to find out more. The next day, Marina told Alex she would be at the shop all day, but instead she followed his car from a safe distance. She felt like a stranger in her own life, spying on the steps of a man she had vowed to love. He drove to a small coffee shop, tucked away on a quiet street. Marina parked a little farther down, keeping the shop in sight. When Alex got out of the car, she sank down into her seat, waiting to see who he would meet. A few minutes later, she saw Olivia arrive. Marina's heart sank. Her hands shook as she gripped the steering wheel. She watched as the two greeted each other with hugs that, to Marina's eyes, seemed too intimate for a simple meeting between a stepfather and his stepdaughter. The way they laughed together, once innocent to her, now seemed filled with secrets. As they talked, Marina pulled out her phone and took a few pictures, barely believing what she was seeing. She tried to stay calm, telling herself that maybe it was just a casual meeting, but everything about it felt wrong. Every minute she sat there, alone, watching from afar, felt like a dagger piercing her heart. When they finally parted ways, Olivia headed to work and Alex returned home, acting as if nothing had happened. Marina followed him back, and upon reaching the house, he greeted her with a kiss and a smile, as though everything was perfectly normal. She reciprocated the gesture, but the weight in her chest grew heavier. Every move he made, every word he spoke now felt like a lie. In the days that followed, Marina dedicated herself to gathering more evidence, trying to piece together the truth. One afternoon, while Alex was out on another so-called business trip, Marina seized the opportunity to search his office. She knew he was usually careful with his belongings, but she also knew there was a spare key hidden in the back of the bedroom drawer. She waited until he was gone, and with her heart racing, went to his office. Opening the door, she felt a chill as the familiar scent of the place filled her senses, but now everything felt different, as if she were invading the space of a stranger. Marina rifled through drawers, shelves, and folders until she found something that made her freeze. A photograph of Alex and Olivia smiling together, with a note on the back that read, "To my love, with all my heart." The photo was recent, and the note was written in Olivia's unmistakable handwriting. Marina sank into the chair, feeling a wave of anger, sadness, and disbelief wash over her. How could this have happened right under her nose? Marina's phone rang, breaking her thoughts and her tears. It was Olivia. She took a deep breath and answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Hi, Mom. Are you home? I was thinking of stopping by later." Marina, holding back the pain she felt, agreed, saying she would be waiting. After hanging up, she looked at the photo again, trying to understand how everything could have gone so wrong. When she got home, Marina prepared herself, placing the photograph and the emails she had printed out in an envelope on the table. When Olivia arrived, wearing the same familiar smile, Marina almost gave in to the urge to embrace her, like she used to when Olivia was a little girl. But her gaze was cold, and Olivia noticed. "Mom, are you okay? You seem upset." Marina took a deep breath, fighting back the tears. "Yes, Olivia, I am. I want you to tell me the truth." Olivia hesitated, the smile fading slowly from her face. "What are you talking about?" Marina handed her the envelope without another word. When Olivia opened it and saw the photos and printed emails, her face went pale. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy and unbearable. "Mom, I can explain," Olivia started, but Marina interrupted, her voice trembling. "Please, just tell me the truth. Why did you do this to me?" Olivia lowered her head, her hands shaking. "I never meant for this to happen, Mom, I swear. But we fell for each other." She paused, tears welling up in her eyes. "It just happened, and I don't know how to explain it." Marina felt her world collapse, and all she could do was stand up and walk away, leaving Olivia alone, holding the weight of her own words. The words came out like a blow, and she watched as Alex's expression changed instantly. The smile vanished, and he turned pale, as if he had been caught in the act. "Marina, I can explain," he started, but she cut him off. "I don't want excuses, I want the truth. How long has this been going on?" Alex, still shaken, hesitated before answering. "Marina, it was a mistake. I swear I never wanted this to happen." He lowered his head, his voice dropping. "It started months ago, but I never wanted to hurt you." Marina felt the ground disappear beneath her again. Months. They had betrayed her for months. The pain of knowing this wasn't a momentary lapse, but a continuous betrayal, hurt more than she could imagine. "And you lied, all those months, while I believed we were fine. While I opened myself up to you, you were with her." Alex tried to approach her, but Marina stepped back. "Don't come near me. I don't know who you are anymore." The tears she had been holding back finally fell. "You made me believe that after everything, I deserved to be happy again. And what do? You betray my trust in the worst possible way." He tried to take her hands, but she pulled away. "Marina, I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but my feelings for you are real." "Real? You call this real?" She let out a bitter laugh. "If it were real, you would have respected me and my family." Marina ran her hand over her face, wiping the tears. I don't want to hear anything else. I want you to leave this house. Now. Alex hesitated, but he saw that Marina was resolute. He quickly gathered some belongings, still trying to justify himself, but the door shut behind him before he could say more. Marina stood there, in the middle of the room, alone, feeling the weight of what had just happened. It was a moment of liberation, but also of deep pain. In the weeks that followed, Marina tried to rebuild her life. Alex made no further attempts to contact her, and Olivia, ashamed, also distanced herself. Marina found herself alone once again, but this time, the solitude felt more comforting than any company that reminded her of betrayal. She spent her days at the tailoring shop, immersing herself in work to fill the void. Her friends tried to console her, but nothing seemed to ease the pain that accompanied her every day. Still, she knew that, somehow, she had to keep going. One afternoon, while returning from work, Marina stopped at a park where she used to walk with Daniel and the kids many years ago. She sat on a bench, looking up at the sky, her mind filled with memories of happier times. And in that moment, she decided that, despite the pain of betrayal, she still had the strength to move forward. She had survived the loss of her first husband, raised her children, and built a life with hard work and dedication. Now, despite the heartbreak, she knew that her strength was still there, waiting to help her rise once again. The silence of the living room felt as if it echoed in every corner of the house. Marina, with a heavy heart and an empty gaze, slowly walked to the porch. The cool evening breeze seemed incapable of easing the suffocating sensation in her chest. She could hear Olivia's voice in the distance, calling out to her, trying to explain. But at that moment, Marina didn't want to listen. Sitting in her rocking chair, the spot that had always been her refuge, she felt the tears roll down her face. How could this have happened, she thought, as the muffled sound of Olivia's voice blended with the gentle wind. She knew that eventually, she would have to face the reality head-on, but she needed a moment to process. It felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Olivia finally approached, her eyes red, her face reflecting the weight of guilt. "Mom, please listen to me," she pleaded, her hands trembling. Marina, still staring off into the distance, took a deep breath, trying to find strength. "Why, Olivia? Why did you do this to me?" Her voice came out low but filled with pain. Each word seemed to tear something inside her. Olivia knelt beside her mother, grabbing her hand. "I don't know how to explain, it just happened. Alex and I, The words came out in sobs, and Marina, even amidst her turmoil of emotions, felt the urge to comfort her daughter. But at the same time, the betrayal was too great, and she couldn't understand how this had unfolded right under her nose. "He was my husband, Olivia. My husband." Marina's voice rose, heavy with anguish and disbelief. "You knew how much he meant to me, after everything we went through." She pulled her hand away, stepping back as if her daughter's touch had become unbearable. "And yet, you brought him close. How could you do this?" Marina stood up, feeling the need to leave. The pain was overwhelming. "I can't listen to any more right now. I need time to think." She walked past Olivia and locked herself in her bedroom. There, alone, she let the pain consume her. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she stared at the wedding photos with Alex that still decorated her nightstand. His smile, which once seemed sincere, now appeared empty, like a mask. How had she been so blind? Night fell, and Marina remained in her room, reliving every moment she had shared with Alex and Olivia. The laughs, the dinners, the family trips, everything now seemed like a cruel farce. At some point, she fell asleep, exhausted by the weight of her emotions. The next morning, Alex returned home, and Marina knew she needed to confront him. When he walked in, wearing his usual smile, she felt her stomach twist. "Can we talk?" she said, her voice steady but her eyes cold. Alex nodded, looking a bit surprised by her distant tone. "Of course, honey, what's going on?" Marina took a deep breath, maintaining the calm she knew was necessary for this moment. "I know about you and Olivia." The weeks following the confrontation with Alex and Olivia blurred into long, endless days and lonely nights. Marina threw herself into the routine of the shop as if it were a lifeline, trying to keep herself afloat amid the sea of pain that engulfed her. The work, once her passion, now became her refuge, a place where she could escape the thoughts that haunted her. Marina felt like her life, which once seemed to be falling into place perfectly, had shattered beyond repair. She avoided the places she and Alex used to frequent, and whenever she drove by Olivia's apartment, she averted her eyes, dreading the confrontation with the memories that still hurt. The distance between her and her daughter grew with each passing day, like a wound that, instead of healing, only deepened. Her friends, concerned, tried to help, but Marina closed herself off more and more. On cold nights, alone in the house that was once filled with laughter and conversations, she felt the solitude like a physical weight. Everything reminded her of the times when she trusted blindly, believing she had finally found happiness. Now, all that remained were the echoes of broken promises and the suffocating silence of an empty home. One morning, while sorting through paperwork for the shop, Marina found an old letter from Daniel, her first husband. It was a simple note from when they were planning their future together, filled with love and optimism. As she read his words, a deep longing for a time when things seemed easier and safer filled her heart. The love Daniel had offered her was genuine and simple, and Marina allowed herself to cry, mourning the absence of something she knew she would never have again. But even in the midst of her sadness, Marina knew she had to carry on. She had survived Daniel's death, raised her children mostly on her own, and built a life with dignity and hard work. Now, as difficult as it was, she would have to find the strength to rise again. What troubled her most was the break with Olivia. No matter how much she tried to convince herself that her daughter's betrayal was unforgivable, her motherly love made her desperately wish for reconciliation. But how could she forgive something so painful? Determined to take back some control of her life, Marina began making small changes. She painted the walls of the house, rearranged the furniture, and even got rid of some of the memories that tied her to the past. The photos that once decorated the living room, capturing happy moments with Alex, were replaced with pictures of her children when they were little, from a time when the family was united and everything felt simpler. In an effort to occupy her mind and distance herself from painful memories, Marina also decided to expand the shop. She hired more employees and started accepting new types of orders, challenging herself to focus on something that could bring her satisfaction again. The afternoons spent with her colleagues, who had become more like friends, were the only times Marina felt truly alive. One night, after another long day of work, Marina found an envelope left on her doorstep. She recognized Olivia's handwriting immediately and felt her heart tighten. For a moment, she thought about throwing the letter away, but her motherly love won out. She opened the envelope with trembling hands and began to read. In the letter, Olivia expressed her regret and pain. She wrote about how lost she felt, how she never intended things to go this far, and how she was begging for forgiveness from the bottom of her heart. "Mom, I know I hurt you in a way that might be impossible to repair, but I love you and miss you every day. I can't bear knowing that I disappointed you so much. I know I don't have the right to ask for forgiveness, but please give me a chance to prove I can be different." Tears rolled down Marina's cheeks as she read. The anger and hurt were still there, but above all, she felt the pain of a mother who longed to have her daughter back. She knew that the path to forgiveness wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that without Olivia, her life would never be whole. In the days that followed, Marina thought a lot about the letter. She wanted to believe that maybe, in time, she could heal and start anew. She knew that forgiveness was a long and difficult journey, but she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. Finally, she decided it was time to talk to Olivia. She called her daughter and arranged to meet at a quiet coffee shop, far from the memories that haunted them. When Olivia arrived, Marina almost didn't recognize her. The daughter, who once had a sparkle in her eyes, now looked worn down, as if she were carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. They sat down, and for a moment they remained silent, each absorbed in her own thoughts. Marina was the first to speak. "I read your letter." Olivia lowered her head, as if she were waiting for a final judgment. "I won't lie, Olivia. What you and Alex did hurt me more than anything I've ever experienced. I lost trust in both of you, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to get it back completely." Olivia looked up at her mother, tears in her eyes. "I know, Mom, and I'll accept whatever comes. I just can't stand the thought of losing you forever." Marina took a deep breath, wrestling with the emotions overwhelming her. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but I want to try. I want us to find a way to make this right, because no matter how hurt I am, you're my daughter, and I love you." Olivia grasped her mother's hand, and the two sat in silence, as if that small gesture was the first step toward rebuilding something that seemed irreparable. They knew the path would be long, but in that moment, there was hope. Marina felt that despite all the pain and difficulties, this was the first real step toward moving forward. The forgiveness wouldn't come all at once, but gradually, and she was willing to fight for it. In the months that followed, Marina and Olivia worked on rebuilding their relationship. They started spending more time together, sharing simple moments like walks in the park and weekend lunches. Marina still felt the sting of the past, but over time, it became less suffocating. The work at the shop remained her escape, but now it was also a place of new hopes, of a reconstruction that went beyond fabric and threads. One day as they sipped coffee together, Olivia made a suggestion. "Mom, I've been thinking about investing in a new project for the shop, something we can work on together, as a way to rebuild not just the business but also what we lost." Marina smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. This was the daughter she had always known, determined and full of ideas. And in that moment, she saw a light at the end of the tunnel. "I'd love that, Olivia. Let's do it together." And so, mother and daughter began a new chapter, more united than ever, aware that the journey of forgiveness and true love wasn't easy. It was a daily choice, a structure built with small gestures and a determination they were both ready to carry together. The first step toward forgiveness wasn't easy for Marina. Although she had decided to give reconciliation with Olivia a chance, the pain remained, like a shadow that seemed to accompany every conversation, every attempt to reconnect. As much as she wanted to rebuild her bond with her daughter, there was a part of her that resisted, still feeling betrayed and hurt. In the days following their first meeting at the coffee shop, Marina and Olivia started seeing each other more frequently. It felt like they were both trying to rediscover the relationship they once shared. However, the tension between them was palpable. Their conversations, which used to flow naturally and be filled with laughter, now seemed careful and measured, as if the wrong word could reopen wounds that were still raw. Marina knew that to truly forgive, she would have to confront what happened. But she wasn't ready to talk about Alex yet. His name had become a ghost she avoided mentioning, and Olivia seemed to respect that boundary, never bringing up the subject. The pain was still too fresh, and as much as Marina tried to move forward, it was hard to forget what she had lost. One afternoon, while working at the shop, Marina was surprised when Olivia stopped by. She was there to help, like she used to in the past, bringing with her the shy smile Marina knew so well. It was a small gesture, but to Marina, it meant a lot. Together, they organized the day's orders, folded fabrics, and shared small stories about their daily lives. For a moment, Marina almost felt like things were back to the way they used to be, when the world seemed simpler and family was her refuge. But even in these moments of closeness, there was still a barrier between them, one that neither knew how to break. Olivia tried to be present, but Marina could feel the distance that remained. It was like an invisible wall separated them, built out of distrust, regret, and words that had yet to be spoken. One night, after another visit from Olivia, Marina decided it was time to face the past head-on. She called her daughter and asked her to come over the next day. When Olivia arrived, Marina was sitting in the living room with a box of photos beside her. Olivia approached hesitantly, sitting down next to her mother. "Mom, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Marina looked at her, her eyes tired but filled with determination. "Olivia, if we're going to move forward, we need to talk about what happened. We can't keep pretending everything's fine when there's so much that still hurts me." Olivia nodded, swallowing hard, knowing the moment would be painful but necessary. The two spent the afternoon going through memories of the past. Photos of Olivia as a child, moments when the family was happy and united. Marina spoke about Daniel, about how he had been a loving and devoted husband, and how difficult it was to rebuild her life after he passed away. Olivia listened quietly, feeling the weight of her mother's story. Finally, they reached the point they had both been avoiding for so long. "When you and Alex started," Marina hesitated, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you come to me? Why did you keep me in the dark?" Olivia lowered her head, tears filling her eyes. "Mom, I don't have an excuse. I felt confused, and I knew what was happening was wrong. I tried to fight it, but I fell for him, and by the time I realized it, I was already in too deep. I was scared of hurting you, and at the same time, I felt trapped in something I couldn't control." Marina closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing her daughter's words. She knew that emotions were complicated, but still, the pain of knowing her own daughter had fallen in love with the man she chose to start over with was almost unbearable. "And now? What do you feel now?" Olivia wiped her tears, taking a deep breath before answering. "I feel ashamed, Mom. Ashamed of betraying you, of causing so much pain, and I miss you every day. If I could go back, I'd do everything differently. I know it's easy to say that now, but it's the truth." Marina looked into her daughter's eyes, seeing the sincerity there. As much as the betrayal still hurt, there was something stronger between them, a bond that no amount of pain could fully erase. Determined to take a step toward forgiveness, Marina took Olivia's hand. "I'm trying, Olivia. It's not easy. But if you're willing to start over, I am too. Because in the end, you're a part of me. And I need to believe that, together, we can get through this." They hugged, crying together as mother and daughter in a moment of reconnection. Marina felt that, despite all the pain and difficulty, this was the first true step in moving forward. Forgiveness wouldn't come all at once, but it would come little by little, and she was ready to fight for it. In the months that followed, Marina and Olivia worked on rebuilding their relationship. They began seeing each other more often, sharing simple moments like walks in the park and weekend lunches. Marina still felt the sting of the past, but over time, it began to fade. The shop remained her escape, but it also became a place of new hope, a symbol of the reconstruction that went beyond fabrics and threads. One afternoon, while they were enjoying a coffee together, Olivia suggested something that surprised Marina. "Mom, I've been thinking about investing in a new project for the shop. Something we can work on together, like a fresh start, a way to rebuild not just the business, but also what we lost." Marina smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. This was the daughter she had always known, determined, full of ideas. And in that moment, she saw a light at the end of the tunnel. "I'd love that, Olivia. Let's do it together." And so, mother and daughter embarked on a new chapter, more united than ever, but aware that the path to forgiveness and true love wasn't easy. It was a daily choice, built with small gestures and a determination they both carried within them. Later that day, as Marina closed the shop and looked out at the sunset through the window, she felt something different. There was still pain, and there was still a long road ahead, but there was also hope, and that, for her, was enough to keep going. Time passed, and little by little, Marina and Olivia rebuilt the bond that had nearly been destroyed by betrayal. The wounds didn't disappear completely, but their relationship became stronger, built on new honesty and a commitment to move forward. Their conversations were more sincere, their time together more meaningful, and above all, they had learned to value each other's presence. The shop, which had been Marina's anchor for so many years, also went through transformations. With the new project Olivia had suggested, they launched a special line of mother-daughter clothing, symbolizing the unity and reconciliation they were striving for. The pieces, designed to be delicate and comfortable, reflected the care and dedication they poured into them. The line became popular, and Marina felt a deep sense of pride as she watched her business grow with her daughter's touch. Olivia, for her part, worked hard to show how sorry she was and how committed she was to making things right. She completely cut ties with Alex and focused on rebuilding her life and her relationship with Marina. Over time, Marina noticed the effort Olivia was making, and gradually, the weight of distrust that had burdened her started to lift. Slowly but surely, it gave way to acceptance and eventually to a true and heartfelt forgiveness. Despite the pain that still lingered, Marina began to realize that forgiveness was a liberating process. By letting go of the resentment, she felt she could finally open herself up to new possibilities in her life. One afternoon, while Marina was busy at the shop, Olivia mentioned something that caught her off guard. "Mom, have you thought about going out more? Meeting new people?" Marina smiled, feeling a bit shy. "I don't know, honey. I'm not sure I'm ready yet," Olivia insisted with a playful tone. "But who knows? Maybe you'll be surprised? You deserve to be happy, and I want to see you smile like that again." Marina pondered. For years, she had dedicated herself to her children and her work, and even after the betrayal, she focused on rebuilding herself and keeping her family together. Maybe it was time to think about her own needs and desires. She decided to accept an invitation from one of her friends at the shop to attend a dinner with a group of people she didn't know. It was a small step, but for Marina, it represented a lot. On the night of the dinner, Marina took her time getting ready, choosing a simple dress that made her feel confident. As she looked in the mirror, she noticed that despite everything, there was still a spark in her eyes, something that reminded her that, even after the storms, new beginnings were possible. The dinner was pleasant, and Marina felt welcomed by the new friends she met. Amidst the laughter and conversations, she realized that life still had a lot to offer. She felt light, as she hadn't in a long time, and for the first time, she noticed that loneliness wasn't a burden anymore. It was an opportunity, something she could choose to fill if she wished. A few weeks later, Olivia suggested they take a weekend trip together. "Just us, Mom. I think we need this." Marina agreed, and the two of them went to a small beach town where they spent their days walking along the shore, laughing together, and rediscovering the joy of each other's company. It was a moment of peace that Marina didn't realize she needed so badly. On the last night of their trip, sitting on the sand and watching the waves crash gently against the shore, Olivia turned to her mother and smiled. "I know we still have a long way to go, but I'm so grateful that you gave me this chance, Mom. I'll never forget what you did for me." Marina, with tears in her eyes, replied, "And I'll never stop believing that, despite everything, the love we share is stronger than any pain." They hugged, and in that moment, Marina felt like she had finally let go of the past. The scars were still there, but now they were just reminders of a battle she had won. Back in the city, Marina continued to dedicate herself to the shop, but with a renewed sense of purpose. She felt lighter, more open to the opportunities life presented her. She began going out more frequently, meeting new people, and creating new connections with joy and lightness. One day, while organizing new orders at the shop, a new client came in, accompanied by a man who seemed familiar. As she approached, Marina realized it was Peter, an old friend she hadn't seen in years. He had been close to Daniel, her first husband, and they had lost touch over time. Peter smiled warmly at her, and Marina felt a sense of warmth, something that reminded her of the good times from the past. Peter, now widowed, began visiting the shop more often, finding excuses to chat and reminisce about old stories. Marina, who initially felt hesitant, soon found herself looking forward to his visits. Peter was kind, funny, and always seemed to find a way to make her smile. His presence felt like a breath of fresh air that she hadn't known she needed. With time, Marina and Peter started spending time together outside of the shop. At first, they were just friends, but gradually, Marina felt something deeper growing between them. The heart that had once been hurt and closed off was slowly opening up again. Olivia, seeing her mother so happy, supported her every step of the way. "Mom, you deserve to be happy, and I want to see you smiling like this every day." Marina finally allowed herself to believe that love was possible again, without fear. What began as a friendship with Peter soon blossomed into something more profound, and for the first time in a long time, Marina felt her heart was at peace. A year later, Marina and Peter decided to take a small trip together. Sitting on a porch, watching the sunset, she looked at him and smiled, feeling grateful for all the experiences she had lived through, the good ones and the painful ones. Every scar had shaped her, and every tear, no matter how bitter, had prepared her for that moment. Marina knew there would still be challenges ahead, but now she felt ready to face them. She felt stronger, more confident, and most importantly, she was ready to live her life with an open heart. She was no longer the woman who allowed herself to be broken by pain. She was a woman who, even amidst the hardest trials, had found a new dawn.